I saw a play last week, had a character reminding me of Jonathan. When the curtain comes up, the first thing you see is a dead body. And Abby, there's a body in the window seat! Yes, dear, we know. Mr. Hoskins. Oh, and he's a Methodist, isn't that nice? Da, 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 da. Hi, I'm Bobby, and even though it's only September, some people are already celebrating Halloween. Now I'm one of them. So let's all get into that autumn mood by taking a look at the 1944 Halloween comedy classic, Arsenic and Old Lace. Together, we'll meet Broadway's first family of fright, the Brewster family. We'll have some elderberry wine and kick the pants off pumpkin spice. And we'll charge into the Halloween season. Charge! Arsenic and Old Lace was based on the hit Broadway play by Joseph Kosserling, and the murdering Brewster sisters were based off the real-life serial killer, Amy Archer Gilligan. Just like the Brewsters, insanity ran in her family. Her and her husband opened up a nursing home, where she is believed to have killed over 40 people, including 2 of her husbands, with arsenic. She was convicted of 5 murders and went to an institution for the criminally insane. Kosserling originally envisioned his play as a drama titled Bodies in Our Cellar, but theater producers Howard Lindsay and Russell Crouse convinced him that this play would be a real scream if he made it a comedy. And for the part of the creepy murderer Jonathan Brewster, the producers went for the biggest name in horror movies, and frankly, it was Boris Karloff. After they offered him $2,000 a week and 10% ownership of the show, Boris reluctantly agreed. Boris had never been on Broadway before, and he was a nervous wreck. But with one line, he won over the audience. You shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He said I look like Boris Karloff. Boris said it was the happiest role of his life. Warner Brothers bought the film rights, and Frank Capra, who loved the show, wanted to direct. However, the play's producers insisted that the movie could not be released until after the Broadway play closed, and it was such a hit, this ended up taking 3 years. They allowed Josephine Hull, Gina Dare, and John Alexander 8 weeks off to film the movie, but no Boris Karloff, because he was considered essential to the play's success. Boris was heartbroken. Instead, Frank Capra had the makeup department Frankenstein up Raymond Massey. During production, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and 4 days later, Frank Capra enlisted in the Army, making this his last Hollywood movie until after World War II. Mortimer Brewster is a theater critic and an author who writes about everything wrong with marriage. And on Halloween, he gets married. Before they go to Niagara Falls, he stops by his Aunt Abby's and Aunt Martha's house, and Mortimer finds out that they're both murderesses, and they have killed 12 people by putting arsenic in their elderberry wine. Mortimer's brother Teddy believes he's Teddy Roosevelt, and thinks that he's digging the Panama Canal while he's burying the bodies in the basement. Their latest victim, Mr. Hoskins, is currently residing in the window seat and is waiting for his burial. To get out of this jam, Mortimer tries to have Teddy committed to Happydale Sanitarium, but while he's gone, Mortimer's other brother, the murderer Jonathan Brewster, who looks like Boris Karloff, and his criminal companion Dr. Einstein come to the house and have a body of their own, Mr. Smanazzo, to get rid of. Halloween is filled with everything spooky, but all in the name of fun. Now, in an opening title card, Arsenic and Old Lace is described as a Halloween tale set in Brooklyn, and it absolutely captures the spirit of the holiday. The opening credits look like Halloween decorations. There are trick-or-treaters, and the main sets are the cemetery with all the leaves on the ground, and the old-fashioned Brewster house. And being based on a play, there's a lot of characters entering and exiting through the front door, so it's like trick or treat with what crazy character is going to come in next. Part of the fun of Halloween is everyone's wearing a costume and it's something different. Now times that by 10, and you have Abby and Martha Brewster. They seem like the typical little old ladies. They're loving, they're religious, they like to gossip. But in this movie, they also love to kill people. But they still act like little old ladies about it. Well, dear, you know my knack for mixing things. You've eaten enough of my piccalilli. Well, dear, for 1 gallon of elderberry wine, I take 1 teaspoon of arsenic, half a teaspoon of strychnine, and just a pinch of cyanide. In fact, one of our gentlemen found time to say how delicious it was. They're hilarious. Now, Teddy acts like a kid wearing a Teddy Roosevelt costume, where he pretends that the basement is the Panama Canal, and that the stairs are San Juan Hill. And every time he goes up them, he yells, "Charge! Charge!" Now, after it gets dark on Halloween, you watch scary movies. And even before television, they used to run them in the movie theater on Halloween. And that is the same time when Jonathan Brewster and Dr. Einstein make the scene. And they are like 2 characters right out of a horror movie. Jonathan looks like Boris Karloff, and they don't mention it. But Dr. Einstein looks a little like Peter Lorre. Now, for those who like to drink on Halloween, Arsenic and Old Lace also has that covered. Now, between Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, and Jonathan, they've killed 24 people. We see them trying to kill somebody, but we never see them succeed. And we never see any of the bodies. So the movie never gets dark or macabre. It always has that innocent, playful quality of Halloween. Oh, let's pretend to be scary. So instead of being put off by this strange plot, you're enchanted by it. And you are also enchanted by the characters. For the main character, Mortimer Brewster, they made the perfect casting choice. The biggest male star in Hollywood, Cary Grant. He was born Archibald Leach, but he became the epitome of the charming and handsome leading man. He was even the inspiration for James Bond. So you instantly like him and are open to wherever the story goes because you're connected with him. Look, Elaine, I probably should have told you this before, but insanity runs in my family. It practically gallops. As the story unfolds, he goes from his typical debonair demeanor to a frantic mess and has one hilarious reaction after the other. Either it's a funny line, a funny face, or an all-around funny body. Now, he thought this was his worst performance because he's so over the top, but I disagree. These situations call for crazy reactions. Plus, by him being so cartoony, it helps keep the tone light, so that you never take the murder seriously. Along with Cary, I think this is one of the best cast movies I've ever seen. Each character is either a little or a lot crazy in their own way, and each actor or actress brings a unique kookiness and comedy style to their role. Josephine Hull and Gina Dare have the warmth of an Aunt Bee, but with the Addams Family sense of humor. John Alexander as Teddy is like the Curly or Harpo of the group. He's childlike, and you never know what crazy thing he's going to do. I must be catching cold. No, dear, that was Reverend Hopper who sneezed. There are also spectacular supporting actors. Peter Lorre is the heavy-drinking Dr. Einstein. Edward Everett Horton is the absent-minded Dr. Witherspoon, the head of Happydale Sanitarium. And Jack Carson is Officer O'Hara, who's more interested in writing a play than doing his job. Look, Mr. Brewster, you don't know the stuff that goes on in Brooklyn. My mother was an actress. Was she legitimate? Of course she was. She was my mother. Peaches Latour was her name. Even the tiny parts are perfect and have so much personality. Like Speck O'Donnell. All he does is make a funny face, but he gets a good laugh with that funny face. From top to bottom, there's not a bad elderberry in the bunch. The only one that you might be disappointed by is Raymond Massey as Jonathan Brewster. But it's because you want it to be Boris Karloff. This was one of Boris's greatest roles. And even without knowing the background, you can still kind of tell it's supposed to be him, because they do this recurring joke where they say to him, "You look like Boris Karloff!" and then he gets real mad. Now, Raymond Massey getting mad at that is still funny because it's like being told, you look like Frankenstein. But Boris Karloff getting mad because he's told he looks like Boris Karloff is so much funnier and cleverer. From listening to the radio version, it sounds like Boris played it more tongue-in-cheek, which he excelled at. Plus, he was an established horror icon, so being spooky was second nature, and he comes across as the star of the show. Whereas in the movie, Cary Grant is the star, and Raymond Massey becomes a straight man. Now, through his performance and the way he's filmed, he is spooky, and for a movie, it makes him an exciting antagonist. Plus, there are still jokes about him. Remember how he used to cut worms in two with his teeth? I think Boris would have been more memorable, but Raymond Massey is still good, and his angry reactions are definitely funny. Plus, what says Halloween more than having a psychopathic murderer as your straight man? Now, along with casting, let's charge on and discuss the other effects of his Broadway roots. Charge! Charge the blockhouse! When you watch Arsenic and Lace, you can tell it's based on a play, but for the most part it works in its favor. Because when you have a Broadway comedy that goes for 1,444 performances, you have a darn funny script. And the movie really is one great line after the other. Now, the play is entirely set in the Brewster house. Frank Capra does open it up and include some other locations, but most of it still takes place in that set. But that set has a lot of character to it, with the staircase, the window seat, and the decorations. It was actually based on the boarding house that Joseph Caserling lived in, the Gore's house, while he was teaching at Bethel College in North Newton, Kansas. The only downside is because most Broadway comedies are longer than movie comedies, there are some scenes towards the end that do go on too long. But aside from the last 20 minutes, it actually moves along pretty well. Frank Capra had instructed Cary to be over the top, and because Cary was unhappy with his performance, he was often irritable on the set and frequently complained. But some good did come out of it. He donated $100,000 of his salary to the U.S. War Relief Fund and other war-related charities. Frank Capra was able to get an extension from the military to complete the film, and reported for duty near the end of January of 1942. He was already in his 40s and had served in World War I, so this time he served his country by making pro-war propaganda films. While the movie wasn't released in the U.S. until 1944, in 1943, Jack Warner gave it a special release to U.S. and British soldiers stationed overseas. Frank Capra wasn't told about this, and found out when he was in London and heard soldiers yelling, "Charge!" Both the play and the movie have become classics, and in the play, it's become something of a tradition for major productions to cast a horror-related actor to play Jonathan Brewster. Dracula star Lace.Lugosi played Jonathan Brewster in several productions, but for him, the line was changed to, "You look like Lace.Lugosi!" Fred Gwynne, Herman Munster from The Munsters, played him in a 1969 TV movie, and Jonathan Frid, Barnabas Collins from Dark Shadows, played him in a 1980s Broadway revival. For those interested in seeing or hearing Boris Karloff as Jonathan Brewster, he did appear in a 1952 radio version, which is on YouTube, and in a 1962 TV movie version, which at the time of this recording is on Amazon Prime. So I give Arsenic and Lace 3.5 Jonathan Brewsters out of 4. Bully for you for watching this video, and here's to Halloween.